Jack Evans checked the navigation system one more time as the Nomad cruised through the dark emptiness of space. The small cargo ship hummed softly around him, a sound he had grown to find comforting over the years. "How long until we reach Mars Colony?" Lisa Martinez asked, floating into the cockpit with 2 pouches of coffee. She handed one to her husband and strapped herself into the co-pilot's seat. "About 6 hours if we maintain this speed," Jack replied, taking the sip from the pouch. "The cargo's secure. Those medical supplies will make a big difference for the outer settlement." Lisa nodded and looked out at the stars. After 10 years of marriage and 5 years running cargo together, they had fallen into an easy rhythm. Both had left promising careers, Jack in engineering, Lisa in military intelligence, to seek freedom among the stars. Their ship wasn't much, but it was theirs. "Something just appeared on the scanner," Jack said suddenly, his relaxed expression vanishing. "About 2,000 kilometers off our starboard side and closing fast." Lisa leaned forward, checking the readings. "It's big, really big. And it's not broadcasting any identification code I recognize. Not Earth military or commercial," Jack confirmed, his fingers moving quickly across the control panel. "And definitely not any Mars Colony vessel." The ship's communication system crackled to life. No video, only a voice, deep and slightly mechanical, as if processed through a translator. "Human vessel, you have entered restricted territory. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded." Jack and Lisa exchanged worried glances. "This is independent freight hauler Nomad," Jack responded. "We're on a registered flight path to Mars Colony with medical supplies. There's no restricted space in this sector." Silence followed then. "Your species' claim to this system is not recognized by the Xylidrian Empire. Comply immediately or face destruction." "Xylidrian Empire," Lisa whispered. "I've never heard of them." Jack's hands moved quickly, trying to send an emergency signal back to Earth. "Neither have I, but they're moving into visual range now." Through the view screen, a massive ship appeared. It dwarfed their small freighter like a whale beside a minnow. Its hull was dark, almost black, with glowing purple lines running along its surface in complex patterns. The design was like nothing either of them had ever seen, all smooth curves and angles that seemed to bend in ways that hurt the eyes if you looked too long. "We can't outrun that," Lisa said quietly, already calculating their options. "And I don't think our signal got through before they blocked communications." The Nomad shuddered violently as a bright beam of energy locked onto them. "It's some kind of tractor beam," Jack said, watching helplessly as their ship's controls went dead. "They're pulling us in." They watched in silence as the small freighter was drawn toward the massive alien vessel. A section of the larger ship's hull split open, revealing a brightly lit docking bay large enough to hold dozens of ships their size. "Whatever happens," Lisa said, reaching for Jack's hand, "we stick together." The Nomad was pulled into the docking bay and set down with surprising gentleness. Around them, they could see other vessels, none of human design. Through the view screen, figures moved efficiently around the bay, tall and slender with reflective skin that shifted colors in the light. A loud clang resonated through their ship as something attached to their airlock. "I guess we're about to meet our first aliens," Jack said, trying to sound brave. The airlock hissed open. 6 figures entered their ship, moving with military precision. They stood over 2 meters tall, with 4 arms and elongated heads. Their eyes were large and entirely black, set in faces covered with fine scales that shimmered between blue and purple. The lead figure stepped forward. "I am Admiral Voss Kelthar of the Xylidrian Empire's expansion fleet. You are now prisoners of the Empire for unauthorized intrusion into Imperial territory." "This is Earth space," Lisa protested. "Humans have been traveling this route for decades." Admiral Kelthar made a sound that might have been laughter. "Your species has been observed for some time. You were deemed too primitive for formal contact. Your presence here is a violation of Imperial decree." Jack stood tall despite his fear. We're just delivering medical supplies." "Your mission is irrelevant," the Admiral said coldly. "You will be questioned about your planet's defenses and capabilities. The Empire requires this information before we decide your world's fate." Two guards moved forward, securing Jack and Lisa with strange metallic restraints that seemed to flow around their wrists. "Earth will look for us," Lisa said defiantly. Jack woke up in a small cell with smooth metallic walls that glowed with a faint blue light. His head hurt, and he couldn't remember how he had gotten there. The last thing he recalled was being marched off the Nomad with Lisa beside him. "Lisa," he called out, his voice echoing in the small space. There was no answer. Jack got up from the hard surface that served as a bed and examined his cell. There were no visible doors, just seamless walls on all sides. He pushed against each wall, searching for a way out, but found nothing. Suddenly, one wall became transparent, revealing Admiral Kelethar standing on the other side. "Your mate is in a similar cell," the Admiral said. "She is unharmed for now." Jack pressed his hands against the transparent wall. "What do you want from us?" "Information," Kelethar replied simply. "Your species has been isolated from galactic civilization by our decree, yet you've developed faster than expected. We need to understand your capabilities." "We're just cargo haulers," Jack insisted. "We don't know anything about Earth's defenses or military." The Admiral's scales shifted to a deeper purple. "Scans of your mate show military training. You have engineering knowledge. Both valuable, both useful." Before Jack could respond, the wall became solid again. Moments later, the opposite wall disappeared completely, revealing a corridor. Two guards with weapons stood waiting. "Follow," one ordered. Jack had no choice but to obey. They led him through winding corridors where other alien species moved quickly out of their way. Some looked at Jack with curiosity, others with pity. They arrived at a large room filled with strange machines. In the center stood Lisa, surrounded by three Xylidrians in different colored uniforms. "Jack!" Lisa called out when she saw him. A guard pushed her back when she tried to move toward him. "Now we begin," said a female Xylidrian in a white uniform. "I am Dr. Narration, Chief Researcher. You will answer our questions truthfully." For hours, they questioned Jack and Lisa separately but in the same room, always keeping them just far enough apart that they couldn't touch or speak privately. The questions were endless. Earth's military capabilities, government structures, technology levels, resource distribution. Lisa, trained in counter-interrogation, gave vague or misleading answers. Jack followed her lead, understanding her subtle cues. Dr. Xen grew frustrated. "Your resistance is noted," she said finally. "Admiral Kelethar predicted this. Humans are reportedly stubborn." She nodded to her assistants. One brought forward a small device that glowed red. "This is a neural scanner," Dr. Xen explained. "It can extract information directly from your minds. Most species find the process uncomfortable." "You mean painful," Lisa said flatly. Dr. Xen's scales rippled. "Pain is a subjective experience. For some species, it is beyond painful. It breaks their minds completely." Jack stepped forward despite the guard's warning. "Use it on me first." "Jack, no." Lisa tried to reach him but was held back. Admiral Kelethar entered the room then. "An interesting offer, but unnecessary. We will use it on both of you simultaneously." Guards forced them into chairs, securing their limbs with the same flowing metal restraints from before. Most species beg for mercy within minutes, Admiral Kelethar noted as the devices were positioned at the base of their skulls. "I wonder how long humans will last." "Longer than you expect," Lisa said defiantly. The Admiral's mouth curved in that almost smile again. "I certainly hope so. It has been some time since we encountered a truly interesting species." As the devices activated, Jack and Lisa both tensed, their backs arching as the pain began. They locked eyes across the room, drawing strength from each other. "Interesting," Dr. Xen murmured, watching her monitors. Their neural pathways are rerouting the pain. I've never seen this response before. Admiral Kelethar watched with growing fascination. Increase the intensity. Let's see what these humans are truly capable of enduring. The machines hummed louder. Jack and Lisa's faces contorted in agony, but neither made a sound. The Excelidrians exchanged glances of surprise. Most curious, the Admiral said quietly. Perhaps we have underestimated this species after all. Days passed, or what seemed like days. In the windowless depths of the alien ship, time became hard to track. Jack was put to work repairing systems in the lower decks. His engineering background made him valuable, though guards watched his every move. One morning, or what passed for morning in the artificial day-night cycle of the ship, Jack was led to a new section. This area housed the ship's main computer systems. As he worked on a damaged console, he noticed the screen displayed human DNA sequences. Jack glanced around. His guards were talking quietly to each other, momentarily distracted. He quickly tapped a few commands, bringing up more information. The screen showed his and Lisa's DNA samples side by side, with certain sections highlighted. "What are you doing?" A sharp voice cut through his concentration. One of the guards had noticed his unauthorized access. "Just checking system compatibility," Jack lied smoothly. "I need to know what I'm connecting to." The guard looked suspicious but waved him back to work. Jack continued his repairs, but his mind raced with what he'd seen. The Excelidrians were studying something specific in human DNA, something they called the Lazarus sequence. Meanwhile, Lisa was being marched back to her cell after another grueling session with Dr. Xen. As they passed a laboratory, she heard voices from inside. "The human female continues to resist the neural scanner," a voice said. It was Dr. Xen speaking to someone. "Is it possible their species is naturally resistant?" asked another voice. "No," Dr. Xen replied. "It's connected to the anomaly in their genetic code, the Lazarus sequence. No other species we've encountered has it." Lisa slowed her pace, trying to hear more. Her guard pushed her forward, but not before she caught one more crucial sentence. "The Admiral believes this sequence could pose a threat to Imperial dominance if activated." Back in her cell, Lisa paced the small space. The Lazarus sequence, something in human DNA that worried the Excelidrians, something unique to humans. But what did it do? Hours later, Jack was returned to his cell. To his surprise, the wall between his cell and Lisa's became transparent. They could see but not hear each other. It was the first time they'd seen each other in days. Lisa looked thinner, with dark circles under her eyes, but her gaze was still fierce and determined. She began to tap her finger against the wall in a pattern. Jack recognized it immediately. Morse code, something they'd practiced for fun during long journeys. "DNA," she tapped. "THEYFEYARSOMETAAINGINUS." Jack nodded and tapped back. "LAZARUSSEQUENCESAWAFILES." They continued their silent conversation until the wall suddenly became solid again. The transparent wall on the opposite side of Jack's cell cleared, revealing Admiral Kelethar. "Clever communication attempt," the Admiral said, "but futile. Your resistance only prolongs your suffering." Jack stood tall despite his exhaustion. "What is the Lazarus sequence?" The Admiral's scales flickered in surprise. "You've been accessing information beyond your authorization. Interesting. What are you afraid of?" Jack pressed. "What's so special about human DNA?" "Your species shouldn't know about the sequence," Kelthar said after a pause. "It's dormant in all of you. Has been for millennia. We intend to keep it that way." During his next work shift, Jack was left alone briefly while his guards changed. He seized the opportunity, accessing a communication terminal. With quick, practiced movements, he created a small data packet with their coordinates and a brief message. humans held by Solidrian Empire, studying Lazarus sequence in human DNA. Fear it. He directed the message toward Earth using an emergency frequency and masked it as system noise. The transmission lasted only seconds before he returned to his assigned task. That night, both Jack and Lisa were awakened as their cell doors disappeared. 6 guards surrounded each of them. "The Admiral has authorized escalated measures," said the lead guard. "Your resistance ends now." As they were marched down the corridor, Jack caught Lisa's eye briefly. Despite everything, they shared a small smile. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The escalated measures turned out to be worse than Jack and Lisa imagined. They were taken to a large circular room with various devices along the walls. In the center was a clear chamber big enough for a person to stand in. "The resistance you've shown is remarkable," Admiral Kelthar said, entering the room. "Most species break within days under our standard methods." Dr. Xen stood beside him, holding a tablet-like device. "I've prepared several new approaches, Admiral. We'll find the limits of human endurance." "What do you want?" Lisa asked, her voice hoarse from lack of water. "Complete submission," Kelthar replied. "And to understand why your kind possesses the Lazarus sequence. The Empire doesn't tolerate potential threats." Jack was forced into the clear chamber first. The door sealed with a hiss. At first, nothing happened. Then a fine mist filled the chamber. Jack began to cough, his skin turning red and blistering wherever the mist touched. Lisa fought against her restraints. "Stop it. You're killing him." "Not quite," Dr. Xen said, watching her monitors. "The compound breaks down pain barriers without causing permanent damage. He feels as if he's burning alive, but his body remains intact." For hours, they alternated Jack and Lisa in various torture devices. Sometimes they were kept apart, other times forced to watch each other suffer. Through it all, they refused to break. In a nearby cell block, other alien prisoners listened to the humans' ordeal with growing awe. "The small pink ones have been in the pain chambers for days now," whispered Kree, a reptilian prisoner with iridescent scales. "No one lasts this long." His cellmate, a blue-skinned being with 4 eyes, nodded. "The Solidrians are afraid of them," I heard the guards talking. Down the corridor, Lieutenant Mirados, a young Solidrian officer, listened to their conversation with interest. Unlike her superiors, she questioned the Empire's methods. These humans fascinated her. After a particularly brutal session, Jack was thrown back into his cell, barely conscious. The wall between his and Lisa's cells became transparent again. She lay motionless on the floor, her breathing shallow. Jack dragged himself to the wall, placing his palm against it. Lisa, sensing his presence, opened her eyes and moved her hand to meet his, separated only by the transparent barrier. "Stay with me," Jack whispered, though she couldn't hear him. Lisa's lips moved in reply. "Always." The next day, Admiral Kelthar tried a new approach. He had Jack brought to the bridge of the massive ship and showed him a holographic display of Earth. "Your planet is defenseless against our weapons," the Admiral said. "Tell us about the Lazarus sequence, and we might show mercy." "I don't know anything about it," Jack insisted. "It's the first I've heard of it." The Admiral's scales darkened. "Then perhaps your mate will be more cooperative after you've been spaced." Jack was dragged to an airlock. Through a window, he could see Lisa being held in a nearby corridor, forced to watch. "Last chance," Kelthar warned. "Jack, don't tell them anything." Lisa shouted. A young Solidrian officer approached the Admiral and whispered something. Kelthar's eyes widened. "Impossible," he hissed. "Check again." The officer hurried away as Kelthar turned back to Jack. "It seems your primitive attempt at communication succeeded. Earth vessels are approaching our position." Jack couldn't hide his smile. "I told you they'd look for us." "It changes nothing," the Admiral said coldly. "A few human ships pose no threat to us. But now we must accelerate our work." He gestured to the guards. Take them both to the molecular chamber. No more restraint. We need answers before their fleet arrives." As they were dragged away, Jack and Lisa exchanged glances. Help was coming, but would it arrive in time? And could they endure what was still to come? Lieutenant Mirados watched them pass, her scales shifting to a troubled gray color. Something about these humans made her question everything she'd been taught about her empire's superiority. Perhaps, she thought, it was time to make a choice. The molecular chamber was unlike anything Jack and Lisa had experienced before. It was a large, circular room with walls that seemed to shift and pulse with energy. In the center were two platforms surrounded by hovering rings of light. This technology is normally reserved for the most dangerous enemies of the Empire, Dr. Xen explained as guards secured Jack and Lisa to the platforms. It allows us to examine and manipulate the subject at the molecular level. Admiral Kelithar entered, followed by several high-ranking Solidrians. "Your Earth vessels will arrive in approximately 12 hours, he told the humans. "By then, we will have our answers about the Lazarus sequence." Dr. Xen activated the chamber. The rings around Jack and Lisa began to spin, emitting a humming sound that grew louder and more painful with each passing second. Soon, both humans were screaming as they felt their bodies being taken apart and examined cell by cell. "Fascinating," Dr. Xen said, studying her monitors. "The sequence is integrated throughout their genetic structure, but it remains dormant. It appears to require a specific trigger. Can you activate it?" the Admiral asked. "Perhaps with enough stress on their systems," she replied. "I'll increase the intensity." The pain grew worse. Jack felt as if his very atoms were being pulled apart and reassembled incorrectly. Through tear-filled eyes, he could see Lisa on the other platform, her body arching in agony. "Lisa," he called weakly, "stay with me." She couldn't respond, but her eyes found his across the space between them. In the corridor outside, Lieutenant Mirados listened to their screams with growing horror. She had been raised to believe in the Empire's superiority and right to rule, but this seemed wrong. These humans had shown courage and loyalty to each other that impressed her deeply. Inside the chamber, Admiral Kelthar was growing impatient. "They still resist." "Their neural patterns are unlike anything I've seen," Dr. Xen admitted. "They seem to draw strength from each other, even when physically separated." The Admiral considered this. "Then let's use that against them." He ordered his technicians to adjust the chamber. Suddenly, holographic projections appeared in front of each human, showing the others suffering in excruciating detail. "Now they can witness everything," the Admiral said coldly. Jack tried to close his eyes, but his eyelids were held open by some unseen force. He was forced to watch as Lisa's body contorted in pain, as her skin blistered and her veins bulged. Lisa likewise had to witness every moment of Jack's torment. Tears streamed down her face as she watched the man she loved suffer beyond human endurance. "Their vital signs are failing," Dr. Xen reported after hours of this treatment. "We're losing them." "Push harder," the Admiral demanded. "The sequence must activate before they die." But the Solidrians had miscalculated. The human body, resilient as it was, had limits. Jack felt his heart stuttering in his chest, each beat more painful than the last. Across from him, Lisa's breathing had become shallow and irregular. "Jack," she whispered, somehow finding the strength to speak. "I love you." "I love you too," he managed to reply. "Always." Jack's vision began to darken at the edges. The last thing he saw was Lisa's body going limp on her platform. His heart clenched in grief before it too gave out, unable to withstand any more. "They're flatlining," Dr. Xen shouted. "Both of them." Admiral Kelithar stared in disbelief. "Impossible. Increase resuscitation efforts." The medical team rushed to intervene, but it was too late. Both humans were dead, their vital signs completely flat on the monitors. "Time of death," Dr. Xen noted grimly, "is 1437 ship time." The Admiral's scales darkened with rage. "You've failed me, Doctor. Their bodies are to be preserved for further study. Perhaps in death, They will reveal what they would not in life. As the Celidrians began to power down the chamber, no one noticed the strange glow that had begun to pulse, very faintly, beneath the skin of the two human bodies. The medical team had just begun to disconnect Jack and Lisa from the chamber's equipment when Dr. Xen noticed something on her monitors. "Admiral, look at this," she said, pointing to a reading that pulsed with increasing strength. "There's some kind of energy building in their cells." Admiral Kelifar moved closer to examine the screens. "What is it?" "I don't know," she admitted, "but it's growing stronger. It seems to be concentrated in the areas where we detected the Lazarus sequence." Exactly 20 minutes after their deaths were recorded, both human bodies suddenly arched upward, gasping violently for air. The restraints on the platforms snapped as if made of paper. Alarms blared throughout the chamber. "Impossible," Dr. Xen shouted, backing away. They were dead. Complete cardiac and neural failure. Jack's eyes flew open, but they weren't the same eyes anymore. They glowed with a bright blue light that seemed to pulse from within. His skin healed before their eyes, wounds closing and bruises fading in seconds. Across from him, Lisa also awoke, her eyes shining with the same eerie light. She sat up, looking at her hands in wonder as the blisters and cuts disappeared. "The Lazarus sequence," Admiral Kelfar whispered. "It's activated." The Celidrians backed away as Jack and Lisa stood up. They seemed different now, stronger, more aware. Jack looked around the room with new understanding, as if seeing beyond the physical world. "What's happening to us?" Lisa asked, her voice clear and strong despite her throat having been raw from screaming minutes before. "I don't know," Jack replied, "but I can feel it. Something has changed." He looked at the equipment around them, and suddenly he understood how it all worked. The alien technology that had seemed so mysterious before now made perfect sense to him. Lisa stepped toward the Admiral, who flinched away. "You," she said, "you pushed us too far." "Guards!" Kelfar shouted. "Contain them." 6 guards rushed in with weapons drawn. They fired energy blasts at the humans, but the beams seemed to bend around Jack and Lisa, unable to touch them. "Their molecular structure is changing," Dr. Xen said, staring at her readings in disbelief. "They're adapting to our weapons in real time." Jack reached out and touched a nearby control panel. The ship's lights flickered as he somehow connected with the system. "I can feel the ship," he said to Lisa. "It's like I can read the technology now." Lisa nodded. "And I can understand them," she said, gesturing to the Celidrians. "Not just their words. I can sense their thoughts, their fears." Admiral Kelifar backed away. "Impossible. This can't be happening." "The ancient prophecy," one of the older Celidrians whispered. "The ones who returned from death's embrace." Jack turned to Lisa. "We need to get out of here, find our way back to Earth." "The Earth ships," she reminded him. "They're coming. We need to warn them about what the Celidrians were planning." With a gesture, Jack caused all the doors in the chamber to open. Alarms blared throughout the ship as systems began to malfunction. "Stop them," Admiral Kelfar ordered, but the guards hesitated, clearly afraid of the transformed humans. Lieutenant Mira Das appeared in the doorway, watching the scene with amazement. When Jack and Lisa moved toward the exit, she made a decision. Instead of blocking their path, she stepped aside. "This way," she said quietly. "I can lead you to the communication center." Admiral Kelifar saw this betrayal and roared in anger. "Traitor, you will die with them." "Better that than live serving monsters," Mira replied, her scales shifting to a resolute blue. Jack looked at the young officer, somehow sensing her sincerity. "Why help us?" "Because what they did to you was wrong," she answered simply. "And because the Empire fears you. That means you matter." As they left the chamber, Jack and Lisa could feel their new abilities growing stronger. The ship's layout appeared in Jack's mind like a map. Lisa could sense the locations of crew members throughout the vessel. "Whatever this Lazarus sequence is," Lisa said, "I don't think it just brought us back." "No," Jack agreed, feeling power coursing through his body. I think it made us something new. Mira led Jack and Lisa through the winding corridors of the massive ship, avoiding the main pathways where guards were searching for them. Alarms continued to blare as systems throughout the vessel malfunctioned. The prison block is this way, Mira said, pointing down a narrow passage. There are others being held captive who might help us. I can feel them, Lisa said, her eyes still glowing with that strange blue light. Dozens of different species, all prisoners of the Empire. When they reached the prison section, Jack simply touched the main control panel. The energy barriers disappeared from all the cells at once. Confused and frightened prisoners peered out cautiously. You're free, Jack announced. The Empire no longer controls you. Kree, the reptilian prisoner, was the first to step out. How is this possible? No one escapes the Telidrians. We died, Lisa explained simply. And then we came back different. Word spread quickly among the freed prisoners. Some fled immediately, heading for the escape pods. Others gathered around Jack and Lisa, seeing them as leaders in this unexpected rebellion. The ship has over 2,000 crew members, Mira warned. They'll regroup soon. Jack nodded. Then we need to reach the bridge. I can disable their weapon systems from there and contact the approaching Earth ships. As they moved through the ship, more alarms sounded. Emergency barriers began dropping, trying to contain the escaped prisoners. Jack easily disabled them with just a touch. Lisa, he said suddenly, do you feel that? Something's changed in you too, hasn't it? She nodded. I can sense everyone on this ship. Their thoughts, their feelings. And she paused, concentrating. I think I can influence them. To test her theory, Lisa focused on a group of guards blocking their path. The guards suddenly looked confused, then turned and ran in the opposite direction. Did you just control their minds? Mira asked, her scales shifting to a pale yellow color that indicated awe in her species. Not exactly, Lisa replied. I just suggested they might be needed elsewhere. And they believed me. They continued their journey toward the bridge, gathering more freed prisoners along the way. The once mighty Xylidrian crew began to panic as reports came in of systems failing throughout the ship and prisoners roaming free. On the bridge, Admiral Kelthar was trying desperately to regain control. Lock down all sections. Deploy combat drones. I want those humans captured or destroyed. Dr. Xen stood nearby, still studying data from when Jack and Lisa had revived. Admiral, I don't think we can stop them now. The Lazarus sequence has transformed them beyond our understanding. Nothing is beyond the Empire's understanding, Kelthar snapped. They are just mutations, aberrations. They can be eliminated. The bridge doors suddenly slid open. Jack and Lisa stood there, flanked by Mira, and a group of freed prisoners, including Kree. It's over, Admiral, Jack said. Your crew is either contained or has surrendered. We control the ship now. Kelthar reached for his weapon, but Lisa's glowing eyes fixed on him. He found he couldn't move his arm. You tortured us, Lisa said quietly. You pushed us until our bodies failed. But in doing so, you triggered something you never expected. Jack moved to the main control console, placing his hands on it. The entire bridge lit up with a new energy as he connected directly with the ship's systems. The Earth vessels will be here in less than an hour, he said. I've disabled your weapons and shielding. You have no choice but to surrender. Admiral Kelthar's scales darkened with rage and fear. You think this is victory. You know nothing of what you've done. The Empire spans galaxies. When they learn what has happened here, what you've become, they'll be afraid, Lisa finished for him. Good. They should be. Kree stepped forward. What will you do with them? He asked, gesturing to the Xylidrian officers. Jack and Lisa exchanged looks, their glowing eyes communicating in ways beyond words. We're not like them, Jack said finally. We won't torture or kill prisoners. They'll face justice, but not revenge. Mira approached them cautiously. The ship is yours now. What will you do next? Jack looked out at the stars through the bridge's viewport. First, we meet the Earth ships and warn them about the Empire. Then, he looked at Lisa. Then we find out just how many more like us might be out there. The Earth ships arrived cautiously, weapons ready. There were 5 of them, small compared to the massive Xylidrian vessel, but they moved with precision that spoke of military training. Jack opened a communication channel. This is Jack Evans of the cargo ship Nomad. Lisa and I are alive and have control of the alien vessel. There was a long pause before a reply came. Jack, this is Captain Alan Ford of the EDF Valiant. We received your distress signal. What's your situation? It's complicated, Jack replied, glancing at Lisa. Request permission to come aboard and explain in person. There's something you need to see. 20 minutes later, Jack and Lisa stood in the conference room of the Earth Defense Fleet's lead ship. Captain Ford and his officers stared at them with a mixture of awe and fear. The blue glow in the couple's eyes had dimmed, but was still visible. So you died, Captain Ford said slowly, and then came back with abilities. The Xylidrians called it the Lazarus sequence, Lisa explained. It's part of human DNA, but dormant until activated by extreme trauma and death. And you think all humans have this? One of the officers asked. Jack nodded. According to what we learned from their databases, yes. But it's never been triggered before because humans haven't been pushed beyond their absolute physical limits and then revived within the critical window. Captain Ford looked troubled. If what you're saying is true, this changes everything we understand about human potential. There's more, Lisa added. Admiral Kelthar finally told us the truth when he realized he had no choice. Humans aren't native to Earth, at least not originally. A shocked silence filled the room. Millions of years ago, there was a species called the predecessors, Jack continued. They were the first advanced civilization in the galaxy and had abilities similar to what we've developed. They fought a war with the ancestors of the Xylidrian Empire and lost. The survivors fled to distant planets, including Earth, where they interbred with early hominids. The Lazarus sequence is their legacy, Lisa said. It's been weakened through millions of years of dilution, but it's still there in all of us. Captain Ford stood up and walked to the viewport, looking out at the stars. So what happens now? You two are different from the rest of us. We're still human, Jack insisted. Just more than we were before. Lisa joined them at the viewport. The Xylidrian Empire spans dozens of galaxies. They've conquered countless worlds, enslaved entire species. They were planning to do the same to Earth, starting with a preemptive strike to eliminate what they saw as a potential threat. Can we stop them? Ford asked. We've downloaded their military plans and star charts, Jack replied. Earth has time to prepare now. And he looked at Lisa, who nodded encouragingly. We might be able to help in ways no one expected. What do you mean? Ford asked. The Lazarus sequence, Lisa explained. Now that we understand how it works, it might be possible to activate it in others, in a controlled way, to create more people like us who can help defend Earth. Ford looked alarmed. You're talking about deliberately killing people in the hope they'll come back enhanced. No, Jack said quickly. The Xylidrian scientists had developed a way to trigger the sequence without the trauma and death. They never used it because they wanted to keep it suppressed, not activated. It should be a choice, Lisa added firmly. But people deserve to know what they're capable of becoming. As they spoke, Mira entered the room with Cree beside her. The other prisoners have decided to return to their home worlds, she reported, to warn them about the Empire. And what about you? Jack asked. Mira's scales shifted to a determined blue. I want to help. The Empire has done too much harm for too long. Captain Ford looked at the strange group before him. 2 transformed humans, a Xylidrian defector, and a reptilian former prisoner. This is just the beginning, isn't it? He asked quietly. Jack nodded, the glow in his eyes brightening slightly. the beginning of something the Solidrian Empire never expected, a resistance that cannot die. Lisa took his hand, her own eyes glowing in response, and it all started because they pushed two ordinary humans too far.